What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, July 8th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 16:04 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe, from Asia, from the Middle East, and also from Texas. I want to update you guys on the hurricane over there. But before I get into that, I just want to cover some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe. So, the Polish Prime Minister and the Ukrainian President signed a new defense agreement that will allow Poland to shoot down Russian missiles and drones over Ukrainian airspace if they're fired in the direction of Poland. This was stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, during a joint press conference with Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk. We are especially grateful for the special arrangements, and this is reflected in the security agreement. It provides for the development of a mechanism to shoot down Russian missiles and drones fired in the airspace of Ukraine in the direction of Poland. I am confident that our teams and the teams of the Ministries of Defense, together with our military, will work together to work out how we can quickly implement this point of our agreements, Zelensky said. Wow. So this is a huge escalation, possibly. Poland is now going to be shooting down Russian missiles and drones heading towards Poland over Ukraine. This is huge news, guys, okay? And according to Zelensky, the signed agreement outlines cooperation on combat aircraft as well. We are grateful to Poland for all the aircraft transferred so far, and we have raised the issue of the possibility of transferring more aircraft with modern NATO avionics to protect our civilian population and our energy grid, the president said. The Prime Minister of Poland also offered to provide electricity to Ukraine from Polish coal and thermal power plants. So this is huge news, guys. Poland might be sending a small amount of fighter jets to Ukraine. We'll have to wait and see if that happens, but this is absolutely huge. Poland and Ukraine are now going to work out a mechanism for shooting down Russian missiles and drones over Ukrainian airspace. Absolutely huge. And late last night, we had a Russian nuclear war radar that was operating. Let me just play this for you. Here is what it sounds like on the radio waves. So this was at 11.44 megahertz last night. This is the Russian container radar, which is a long-range radar used to detect ballistic missiles and aircraft at distances of up to 3,000 kilometers away. So this is what it sounds like on the radio waves when it's on. And this happened at the same time as Russia launched a massive missile attack on Ukraine. They launched a daylight missile attack today, or actually late last night, early this morning, our time here in the U.S. because of the time difference, using KH-101 cruise missiles, Caliber cruise missiles, Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, and KH-22 missiles. There were impacts in the capital city of Kyiv, in Dnipropetrovsk, Kryvyi Rih, and Kramatorsk. The death toll of the Russian missile strikes so far is up to 21 killed, 65 wounded. Okay, that is huge. And the largest children's hospital in Ukraine was attacked by the Russians in this missile strike. Now, I believe this hospital is for cancer, but it is some type of a children's hospital or children's cancer hospital in downtown Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. The name of the hospital is called Akhtamid. I don't know if I said that right, but there is video footage of this Russian missile going directly towards this Children's Hospital, so I have a hard time believing that this was not an intentional strike. I have a hard time believing that this was accidental, okay? And apparently 3 more Ukrainian transformer substations were destroyed in the area of the Kyiv region. The Halasavitsky and Shevcheskovinsky districts of Kyiv had transformer substations destroyed in this attack. We're hearing 3 D-Tech transformer substations were destroyed. D-Tech is the company that provides thermal power to Ukraine, and D-Tech said a month ago that 90% of their thermal power plants are now offline. So this coming winter could be the most brutal for Ukraine as far as power outages go. They're going to have to schedule power outages every day across Ukraine going into the winter. And the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that today's missile attack against Ukraine was in response to attacks by Ukraine at the economic infrastructure of Russia. So I have a hard time believing that. Want to just show you guys some interesting flight paths we have here over Northern Europe. We currently have a lot of reconnaissance activity here just north of Iceland. We have 2 AWACS planes that were patrolling this area of the Norwegian Sea just north of Iceland. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewith NYPrepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. This is a 1-month freeze-dried food supply. It has a 25-year shelf life. Normal price is $237. They've dropped it down to $177. So that's a savings of $60. And it's all packed within 2 rugged, water-resistant buckets. Free shipping is included. $177 for 1 month of food. Where are you going to find a deal like that? They also have a general store, and they're always running discounts in their general store on various prepping and survival items. They have everything from MREs, potassium iodide, to survival seeds. And to get to their general store, you got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. And you'll see when you get there, they have everything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $60 off the My Patriot Supply 1-month emergency food supply. That's $180 for 1 month of food, free shipping included. The link is in the description below this video. And also check out their general store. They have everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always running various discounts there. And we now have this Italian airborne early warning plane, or AWACS plane, flying in the same area as the 2 NATO E-3 Sentries. These are basically radar planes. And look at this pattern, guys, just doing this gigantic loop here north of Iceland near the Norwegian Sea. So something must be happening here for them to send 2 AWACS planes plus an Italian AWACS plane in this area. They've basically been maintaining constant surveillance of this area. First, they deployed 1 E-3, then that E-3 landed, and then they deployed another one. Now that one is going down to land, and then now we have an Italian AWACS plane taking over for the second AWACS. Okay, so this is extremely unusual. I've never seen this before, and I've been following flights for several years now, including throughout the entire duration of the Ukraine war. So maybe there's a Russian flotilla out here, Russian warships, Russian subs. There's a lot of undersea cables in this area that connect Iceland to the rest of Europe, and also Svalbard, which is a Norwegian island. There's a bunch of satellites and radars on Svalbard, and they have a sophisticated system of cabling that goes to Northern Europe from Svalbard. So this is extremely concerning. Could be Russian subs here, I don't know. We also have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert today. We have 2 Boeing E-6B Mercury nuclear war command and control planes airborne right now. One over Nebraska that was looping over the Central Plains all afternoon, and then we have another one over Northern California. We also have a B-52 nuclear bomber that was looping over Louisiana earlier today. Very, very unusual. And we also have a lot of sub-hunter activity here off the coast of Florida today. We had 2 sub-hunters off the coast of Orlando. One was pretty far out, and then one was closer in. And they were actually flying quite low, which means they were trying to get a better bead at any possible sub that may have been in the area, Russian sub. And then here we have 2 more sub-hunters that were out in the Gulf. They had their transponders off, but they were pretty far out in the Gulf here off the coast of Tampa. Okay, so something's going on around Florida. We do know that Russian warships have arrived in Venezuela now. So very serious situation. We now have Russian subs and Russian warships right in our backyard in Cuba and in Venezuela, and there could be some Russian subs right off the coast of Florida. And we also had a U-2 spy plane airborne over Beale Air Force Base in Northern California, which is not something you see every day. Here's a picture of some cancer patients at the Children's Hospital. These are kids with cancer in Ukraine. They had to be evacuated from this hospital. And here we have some pretty clear video footage showing this Russian missile impacting this hospital. Okay, you can actually see the missile going down. You can't see the actual kaboom, and I would never show that anyway, but you can see the missile going down towards the hospital, and there's a building in the way, so you're not going to see the actual kaboom, but you'll see the missile going down. So there you can see that missile right there, okay, going down towards that hospital. So there's no way that, Ukraine's interceptors hit this hospital. There's just no way. A lot of the Russian propagandists are saying that Ukraine attacked their own hospital to blame Russia for it. I mean, we've heard this time and time again, and it's just absolutely absurd and insane. And here's a slow-mo of the missile going down, and you can clearly see it is a Russian KH-101 cruise missile. You can see the 2 wings, one in the middle, one at the end of this missile, which is exactly what the KH-101 missiles look like. Okay, so very, very sad situation. Please pray for these kids and their families that were affected by this barbaric attack. Here's a closer look. You can clearly see this is a KH-101 cruise missile. So guys, this is a clear sign that we're living in the end times. I mean, we're seeing Russia launching missiles in broad daylight at children's hospitals in Ukraine, okay? I don't understand what else it takes to convince people that we are living in the end times. I mean, this is absolutely satanic. And this is exactly what the Bible says would happen in the end times. We would see these satanic wars and acts of evil around the world. And Russia has a new commander of their Baltic fleet. Vice Admiral Sergei Lapilin has been appointed as commander of Russia's Baltic fleet, a source in naval circles told TASS, the Russian state news agency. So this is very interesting. Russia changing out the commander of their Baltic fleet, and that could potentially be a sign that Russia is preparing to go to war with NATO in the Baltics, and that's why they're changing the commander now. They want a new commander, maybe one that's more experienced. Who knows, but this is definitely a sign that Russia is preparing for war in the Baltic region. And I want to remind you guys that over the weekend we had this very unusual reconnaissance path taken by a U.S. reconnaissance drone over northern Poland along the border of Kaliningrad, where Russia's Baltic fleet is headquartered at. And I've never seen this before, actually, and I've been following flights for years and throughout the entire Ukraine war, and I've never seen the Global Hawk fly up in northern Poland like this along the border of Kaliningrad. It is just extremely rare, okay? So something's going on here in Kaliningrad for the U.S. to send a Forte RQ-4 Global Hawk into northern Poland. Very, very concerning. Fuel is now being rationed in Siberia, apparently limited to 20 liters or 5 gallons of liquefied petroleum gas per day. Interesting. And Ukraine shot down a Russian Sukhoi 25 fighter jet in eastern Ukraine over the occupied Donetsk region. And I want to remind you guys about a German clairvoyant by the name of Alois Erlmeyer. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he's from Bavaria, and he died a long time ago, but he was a clairvoyant during the World War II era and up into the early Cold War days, and he predicted things like the invention of the credit card, cell phones, and 9/11. And during World War II, he used to see specifically which houses would be bombed before they actually were bombed. And that's how he became a local celebrity in Germany, because people would go and visit him and ask him about family members, ask him if their houses are going to get bombed, whatever. Okay, but he is credible. He predicted the invention of the credit card, cell phones, and 9/11. He also predicted an invasion of the United States, saying that there would be some kind of an Asian force that would invade the West Coast, but they would be beaten back by the Americans. But something very interesting about his predictions, and this was like in the 1950s, he predicted that prior to World War III, there would be a rise in prosperity around the world, and then a turning away from organized religion. He's talking about the church. And then after that, there would be a collapse in morality, an increase in corruption, and an increase in inflation. And we're seeing all of that happening right now. Okay, prosperity is very high. There's all kinds of technology. People are living longer, etc., etc. But people are also turning away from God and the church because they feel like they don't need God. They don't need the church anymore because they have technology. They have medicine. They have whatever. Okay, so they feel like they don't need to pray anymore. They don't need to ask God for help because they can figure it out themselves with their inventions and technology. And he said that a collapse of morality would follow, increase in corruption, which we're seeing both of those, and an increase in inflation, which we've seen a record high inflation here in America under Biden. Now, it gets even deeper. So he said that the main event that would trigger World War III would be an assassination of a high-ranking politician at a peace conference in Budapest. Now, what's interesting is that Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, has been trying to organize peace between Russia and Ukraine in recent days. First, he went to Ukraine. He met with Zelensky. Then he went to Moscow and he met with Putin. So I find it very interesting that this guy, Alois Erlmeyer, the clairvoyant, said that a Hungarian high-ranking politician or some high-ranking politician at a peace conference in Budapest would be assassinated, and that would trigger World War III. Okay, so maybe a Russian high-ranking politician gets assassinated. Maybe Russia sends a delegation to Budapest. Maybe Lavrov or some other guy gets assassinated in Budapest while they're, meeting for this peace deal with Ukraine. And then all of a sudden, Russia says, we knew it. We knew we couldn't trust you. And then they decide to launch a nuclear strike on America and Europe. He said that Russia would launch a surprise attack on Europe all the way up to the Rhine River. He said that Russia would use thousands of drones that would be sent into Middle Europe. He described them as white swans that came from the hot sands of Africa, possibly referring to the Iranian Shahed drones used by Russia in Ukraine. So this is absolutely insane. Just wanted to mention that to you. Okay, I'm not saying that that's 100% true, but I do believe some of these prophets or clairvoyants are given visions on purpose. God is showing them what's going to happen so they can warn people, because God wants us to know what's going to happen. He wants to protect his children, okay? And people that are willing to listen and have an open mind will get that information and be able to protect their families, okay? So very interesting stuff. And Iran's newly elected president has announced that Iran will continue to unconditionally support Hezbollah. And Japan and the Philippines signed a key defense pact allowing the deployment of Japanese forces for joint drills in the Philippines amid heightened tensions with China in the region. China has moved significant firepower and naval assets into the South and East China Seas. For the first time, Beijing conducted drills within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone and deployed the Shandong aircraft carrier to nearby waters. And China even deployed their massive Coast Guard ship called the Monster, which weighs 12,000 tons. And it has now taken up a position in the Sabina Shoal, which is part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. And here we have a picture provided by Ian Ellis Jones on Twitter showing where these Chinese ships have been parked and where they've been active. You can see that giant Chinese Coast Guard ship was right off the coast of the Philippine island of Palawan, and it's been patrolling the Spratly Islands area, the southern part of the South China Sea, closer to Malaysia. And then the Shandong aircraft carrier is closer to the main part of the Philippines. Very interesting. And I want to update you guys on Hurricane Beryl. As of right now, we have 2.7 million people without power. And most of the people without power are customers of Center Point Energy. And we have initial reports coming out of a gust of 135 miles per hour that was recorded, along with numerous gusts over 100 miles per hour recorded on the coast of Texas. As much as 10 inches of rain has fallen across the area. 2 people have died after trees fell on their homes in Harris County, Texas. And the storm has now claimed the lives of at least 11 people in the last week in Venezuela, Jamaica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and now Texas. And emergency management officials in Texas are saying that very hazardous conditions, including life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds, and heavy rainfall that can cause flooding, are continuing to affect eastern Texas. And Beryl is the first hurricane to make landfall in July in Texas in 4 years. The storm is causing hundreds of flight cancellations in and out of Houston. As many as 529 flights have already been canceled out of Houston's George Bush International Airport, which is 80% of all flights originating from Houston. So it looks like the Houston area was affected the most. And here we have some video footage showing the situation here along the Texas Gulf Coast. You can see the storm surge inundating this area, massive flooding. So the National Hurricane Center made a huge mistake on the forecast. They said it was going to make landfall further west and south, closer to Corpus Christi and Victoria. It actually made landfall closer to Galveston, and also it did a lot more damage than they said it would, and it strengthened to 165 mile per hour Category 5 storm at one point, okay? And they were saying it was only going to max out at 125 miles per hour. So you got to always take everything the National Hurricane Center says with a grain of salt, because they are a government agency, and government agencies try to prevent panic, okay? They don't want people to know all the time what is exactly going to happen, because they're afraid people are going to panic and there's going to be chaos. So they try to minimize the panic by not fully telling the truth in certain situations, okay? But look at this, guys. This is absolutely insane. Very, very serious situation over there. And let me show you the latest radar imagery. So We currently have a bunch of tornado warnings in northwestern Louisiana and eastern Texas near Texarkana, and this is being caused by some of the outer rain bands of the storm. So if you're near Shreveport, Louisiana, and Texarkana, you need to be on high alert for tornadoes, and also up into Arkansas as well as the storm continues to move northeast. Here's the storm. We can see the massive amount of precipitation here. Okay, so if you're in Arkansas, you need to be on high alert for tornadoes. And here's the forecasted path of the storm. It's going to head all the way up into Ontario, Canada as a tropical depression, which is just absolutely insane. And after a bomb threat over the weekend, legislative sessions resumed at the Pennsylvania state capitol after a sweep by FBI and law enforcement officials. The bomb threat was sent out by email on Saturday to all Pennsylvania legislators, stating, "In the name of Palestine, I have hidden lethal lead azide devices in and around Pennsylvania state capitol as well as the Pennsylvania Judicial Center. I plan on triggering one device every few hours until Joe Biden goes on national television and publicly denounces the illegitimate state of Israel. Keep in mind, I am inside one of the two buildings armed with a knife and plan on remaining here to my dying breath." So the FBI and law enforcement are saying that this was a hoax, but honestly, it's hard to tell. Okay, this is very, very serious. And if you remember, back in December, the FBI director testified in front of Congress saying that the situation now, as far as terror threat goes, is the same as it was before 9/11, okay? So keep your eyes open when you're out in public. If you're in big cities, you work in a big city, you travel to a big city, keep your eyes open, okay? Be aware of your surroundings, carry self-defense tools, carry some trauma equipment like a tourniquet and an Israeli bandage. Okay, you can save someone's life with those two things right there, and they don't cost much and they don't weigh much either, okay? And they fit easily into a pocket or into a backpack. And the FAA has ordered the inspection of 2,600 Boeing 737 planes due to a risk of oxygen mask failure during an emergency. Wow, so more issues for Boeing. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. Also, make sure if you guys have your notifications set up that you have on your phone the YouTube app enabled so you're getting notifications from your YouTube app on your phone, because you can disable notifications from apps on your phone. So even though YouTube sends out the notification, you might not see it on your phone if you have that disabled on your phone. So make sure you check and you're set up to get notifications from YouTube on your app on your phone. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I'll see you guys later on tonight. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.